Hey everyone, how we doing today? This is James Sweeney, aka SplitSuit. Welcome back to another video. And as part of the Ask SplitSuit a Question series, a bunch of people asked hand history questions, and today's question comes from Jonathan. And Jonathan just wants to review this hand played with Ace King in an online 1-2 game. So let's check it out. Okay, so in this hand we're playing 1-2 6 max online. There's a raise by villain. Hero decides to 3-bet with Ace King. Totally standard so far, happy with everything. We get called by villain, okay, and here we go. So now villain checks, hero decides to bet, and villain check raises. So Jonathan says in his write-up, I flop top pair, villain checked to me, and I decided to bet, and he raised. I called because I thought I had the best hand, and the HUD showed that his check raise stat was 35 after 150 hands. So Jonathan does decide to call here, and obviously the check raise size is just a min raise, so he's getting a great price here at 4.5 to 1. And my only thing is, and this is just actually great, not even necessarily with the hand, but just in general, like, I love the fact you're giving me the check raise stat. That's awesome. And the fact that you have 150 hands is great. But I really could have used the VPIP and PFR. That would definitely help us determine whether this is a situation where we should be stacking or maybe veering away from it a little bit more, right? If this person is playing 85-56 over that 150 hands, yeah, I'm not going anywhere. But if this person has been playing really nitty over that 150 hands, his check raise range might be very, very tight. To be totally honest, this is the main inflection point in the hand. You really have to make your decision right this moment. Whether you call it, whether you shove it, whether you fold it, you have to make that decision now. Now, this is what I really want to kind of highlight here. If we back up a couple of ticks, you notice that we got into this spot with roughly 3 SPR. Now, I talk about SPR all the time, and 3 and under is typically where I say always stack off top pair, top kicker. You really can't be that wrong. But as we get higher and higher, especially as we get into 3 and 4 SPR, it gets a little bit close. There are situations where you could maybe favor getting rid of it and not just auto stacking it. And I'd say this could be one of those situations. Now, again, if we find out that villain is an 85-56, yeah, okay, it's one of those situations where I'm just going to drill it because he can have king jack, king 10, queen jack, ace queen, all these kind of things that we do very, very well against in their range. But if villain is very, very nitty, what is villain going to be check raising here? Right? I mean, we have the ace of diamonds in our hand, so they can't have like ace jack of it. So any diamond draw is either going to be jack 10 exactly, which obviously has us crushed, or something like king jack of it, in which case that has a huge amount of equity against our hand. And everything else is going to be like pocket 9s, jack 10, maybe pocket queens, assuming you don't think they would 4-bet at preflop. Probably not pocket kings, 1 for combos, but 2 probably they 4-bet at preflop. So you're just in a situation where you're doing really, really awfully, and of course king queen you're smashed too as well. So you really have to make your decision here. And I know it's one of those spots where you can look at the pot odds and say, well, I'm getting such a sick price, it'd be so sick to fold here. And if you think that villain's check raise range is really only the nuts, like they wouldn't do this with pocket 8s, they wouldn't do this with ace jack offsuit, they wouldn't do that with any of that stuff, then what are they really check raising with? Obviously, this is a very, very specialized board that just murders a check raise range from a nitty kind of player. So you have to make your decision right that moment, and that's the major important inflection point here, because once hero decides to call and he turns to pair, there's just no getting away, right? I mean, you made your decision when you decided to call the flop. You call the flop because you think you're good often enough, and this, now you beat king queens. Now the only thing you're really dead to is the jack 10s, the pocket 9s, and the pocket queens if you think they're there. Everything else, you're beating that king queen out, which is fantastic. So I like the fact that hero called, and unfortunately we do end up losing to pocket 9s, and it is what it is. But again, the most important thing is you have to make your decision on that flop, and also make sure you're always consulting that VPIP PFR, especially when over 150 hands you have a good enough idea on a basic player type to determine if you think that check raise range is really nitty or maybe not so much. So Jonathan, thank you very much for the great hand, and if you or anyone else has a poker-related hand or question, feel free to send it to me directly at splitsuit.com/send, and same as always, if you have any comments or questions, please don't hesitate to let me know. Otherwise, I'll see you back soon, and in the meantime, good luck out there, and happy grinding.